Hi everyone, welcome to Tom's Manshed. Now you may have seen my last video about fitting a 32 amp commando socket to the outside of my house, and the reason, as explained in that video, was to use this thing that I'm reviewing today. And you can see the box here behind me. It is something else from Lidl's, but quite an unusual item from Lidl, don't come in that often. And it is, as you can see, a plasma cutter. Now, I've always wanted a plasma cutter. By the way, I'll show you close-ups of this box very shortly. In fact, I'll show them you now. So this is the machine from the front, showing you the indicator lights, the dial and the switch. This is it from the back. That's where you attach an external compressor, should you want to do that too. Not a lot to see at the side, just a picture of the side of the box. On the other side, freeze frame these to your heart's content if you want to read up on some of the specifications. These are the information badges off the side of the unit itself. So just freeze frame them if you want. So any info you want, any more accurate technical info, just freeze frame one of them screens just there. So yeah, why did I want one of these? Well, have I got a use for it at the moment? No. And in the foreseeable future? No. I may at some time in the future have a use for it, but I've always wanted one. There's something fascinated me about them. And what happened was 30 odd years ago, 1987, I started a mobile disco. And I made a trailer out of bed iron, angle iron, that they use for bunk beds and making old-fashioned beds. And it was as hard as rock. And I made a 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot trailer to carry all my disco equipment. In the good old days when it was vinyl and big filament-operated lamps and stuff like that. No LEDs and lasers then. But I needed this trailer, so I made it at my dad's house out of angle iron. And it took ages to do. I had to cut each piece of angle iron with an angle grinder, bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit. And a plasma cutter would have absolutely zipped through. I'm not sure whether they even had them. Don't know when they came out, but did they have them in 87? I suppose they did. But I would have loved something to just zip through 2 or 3 mil, 4 mil angle iron. And I've always been fascinated, I've always wanted one, so I thought, sorry, I'll get this one. I did my disco business till 1999. The Millennium New Year's Eve was my final gig, so about 13 years in total. Then I started Robot Wars. I competed in 2 series of Robot Wars and a thing called Techno Games. Here's a picture of me with Philippa Forrester here, and I forget which series of Robot Wars it was, but she was really nice, Philippa. She showed a keen interest in all the robots and was nice and easy to talk to. And she was also in Techno Games as well, which was, I think, the year 2000, and we came 3rd in the sumo category of that. And then here's a picture of me with Jane Middlemiss and the rest of our team, and that was in a later series of Robot Wars. So, yeah. So, totally irrelevant to this review, but you know me, I like to waffle on for a bit first. Use the red line at the bottom to skip through all this straight into the review if you want. So, yeah, after I sold my disco trailer, I built another trailer for the robot. Again, this time about 5 foot cube. And same method, angle grinding, cutting all that. And again, I wished I'd have had a plasma cutter. So I saw this in Lidl's a couple of months ago, and the good thing about this is, as you can see on the box, it's got an integrated air compressor. Now, usually with a plasma cutter, you need an external air compressor. Now, I have no room in my garage for an external air compressor. It's probably quite handy if I had one, but I've just no room for it. As you can see, here's a picture of my garage with a Scorpion squeezed in. I can just barely get what I've got at the moment in there. So when I saw this in Lidl's with an integrated air compressor, I thought, why not? Let's give it a try. Okay, so let's have a quick look now what comes in the box. So you've got, obviously, you've got your instruction book that you get with every thing from Lidl's, and it's quite a good instruction book. It's better than most. It's got the fold-out facility there so that you can look at the actual bits while you're reading about them. I'm not going to show you every page of this, but I will take a picture of the troubleshooting guide, which could be quite handy if anybody's got one and not got the manual. So I'll show you. I'll just take a quick picture now, and I'll show you that now, so you can see various things to do. Troubleshooting might be quite handy. So you get that. You get this. This tickled me. This. You get this yellow thing. It says, completion of an online training course is mandatory before the device is used. You can find this at such an address. And I went on that, and all it is, in fact, if you want to have a look, you can try it yourself there at the top. All it is just some safety advice, general safety advice about wearing eye protection and gloves and stuff like that. Don't tell you how. It's not a mandatory training course on how to do plasma cutting at all, but there's loads of online stuff on YouTube anyway. So, as I say, you get 2 spare tips with it, and I originally thought that'll do me forever, but I didn't realise how bad I'd be learning it. And as mentioned before, I forgot to turn that air thing on the back off, so the first 2 or 3 minutes trying it, when it was all going wrong, I was burning tips out for fun. You can see, I don't know, you can see how easy you can see on these. Let's have a look. You can see how horrible they go. I'm totally burnt out, and I've gone through 5 of them already just having a mess about with it. So I suggest you get yourself some spares, and these are the ones I got off Amazon. So I'll just show you now the ones I got off Amazon. So this is the ones I got. As you can see under here, there are loads, depending on how many you want. Now, these little things on the left, these round things, these are the swirl adapter or whatever, the swirl generator, and the actual sort of like ceramic tip of it, you're not going to need as many of them. I did break one of them. They're very, very brittle, this tip, so I'm glad I got one with the kit I've just shown you. But I'm still on my original, all of these. So the things you're going to need are the actual tips, and they'll go in either way round. There, these tips here, or the electrodes, and the bit that goes over them, the tips. So for $7.99, that's 10 of them, 10 of them, 10 of them, and 1 of that. Here's a similar thing on eBay. For 19 quid, you're getting 30 of the bits you're going to go through. Like I say, it's these end bits that seem to you get through. You can get also. So they're a readily available one. They seem to be the most common sort of shape on Amazon. So you shouldn't have any trouble. And all you do to fit them, it's dead easy. You just unscrew that ceramic cap. That comes off, and that comes off there, and you just pull out of there. The electrode goes in there, then the swirl thing on top, then the tip, and you then just screw that on top of there. There's an O-ring. There's an O-ring here. Now, one final thing before I show you the demos is the cable it comes with. And like I said, this is, if you haven't checked out my other video up here on how to on fitting a 32 amp commando socket, check that out. This comes with a 16 amp commando socket. Now, you can get an adapter from here to a normal domestic 3-pin plug, but when you've got it running on its full 40 amps, if you just connect it to a normal ring main and there's other things running off that ring main, you have got a danger of tripping it out at your meter. You're better running it on its own dedicated socket if you can. There's a couple of videos online where there's a guy running one in a workshop and he's got a few things connected to it. And as he's using on the higher current, it just keeps tripping his workshop out. So you're better off with a proper external socket. Also with it comes this. Again, once I've got the machine up here, I'll show you where this goes. But this is an attachment hose for an external compressor. So if you did want to use an external compressor, which would have its advantages over the internal one, in as much as it's got a moisture trap and an air filter on, which the internal compressor doesn't, and you'd be able to regulate the pressure more. And so it work better. Looking at some of the other online videos I've seen, it can cut through thicker metal, really, sort of like 10mm, half-inch thick or something metal, using the external compressor when it struggled with the internal one. So you just connect that. I'll show you shortly when I get it up here, at the back of the unit, and you can connect your own external compressor to that, and you get the grounding lead, earthing lead or whatever. It's actually negative. The nozzle end is a negative, this is the positive, so but it just connects like you would a welder, one end to the machine and the other to the piece of metal that you're working on. So you must have that on. I forgot to put that on when I'm cutting the metal, as you'll see later on. And finally, the nozzle itself. So there you got your nozzle. You can see it's already blackened because I've been using it, but I've got a new tip in it. It's got a locking thing there so you can't accidentally squeeze the trigger. Again, that was a bit, I preferred it further around here. I kept knocking that with my glove and when I wanted to turn it on. But trigger there, and at this end you've got your connection that goes on the machine, and this bit here as well. So not sure which bit does what, but there's 3 sockets on the front, as you'll see shortly, and that's where they connect to. So I'm going to just lift the machine up on here and show you that in close up now. Okay, so this is the machine itself. As you can see, the little light at the top there, that's the temperature thermal cutout. So if it gets too hot, that'll light up and it'll cool itself off and then come back. So if you're using it too long, that's what will happen. Mains indicator there, just to show you it's plugged in. This is your current selector from 15 amps right the way around to 40 amps. Again, the thicker the metal you're cutting through, the higher you have that. This switch here is your internal or your external compressor. So if you're using the external compressor with this hose connected at the back, which I'll show you in a second, you would have it there, and that shuts the internal compressor off. But if you're going to be using it like me, just with the internal compressor, you have that clip there, and that brings the internal compressor, which blows the air through. If you're not sure how plasma cutter works, basically it's like a welder. At the spark at the end, the plasma like melts the metal, and it's the force of air flowing through the nozzle, swirling round, creating a vortex that cuts through that molten metal. So it's the air that does the cutting. I'm sure there's a much more technical way of describing it than that, but basically that's how a plasma cutter works. So that brings the internal compressor on, which forces the air through, which does the cutting. So that's your only controls on the front. To connect the things, your ground cable here, earth positive, whatever you want to call it. There you can see it's got like a little lug on it, so you can only get it in one way, and that plugs in here. So you just twist that round till that lug goes in, and then you just tighten this up hand tight like that. And your cutting nozzle, that's the same, it will only go one way. This little bit here has got two little holes and a lug, and that's just like that. That goes on there. Tightens up. And again, you just move that around till you feel it go. There's a little pin on the metal part of the machine and a groove for it in the plastic. And you just tighten that up, and that's your 3 items connected to the front. So let's have a quick look at the back of it now. Okay, so this is the back of the machine. And this is where your mains on-off switch is. So again, obvious off and on at the top, and it illuminates orange when it's on. Now, this here is where you will connect. That end goes to your compressor. So you have your compatible fitting on the end of your compressor hose, if you want to use an external compressor, that is. And this one just goes in there, it just pushes in, and it's one of them where you pull your fingers back and pull it out. Fingers back. Must wash my hands. Got a bit of dirt off this. And push it in and just pull it out if you want to use an external compressor. If you're using the internal compressor, you must have that in that position. This is on like a swivel, and this bit here, as you hold the main thing, is like a ball valve tap assembly. So that, in line with that thing, that would be the position you use to use your external compressor. And all it does in the machine here, it just comes in, it goes to a T-piece. You've got your internal compressor, your external compressor, and then up to your nozzle. And if you're using the external compressor, you have that, and it comes in there straight to it. If you're using the internal compressor, you must have that turned off to stop air coming out this way from your internal compressor. When I very first tried it, just before I started the filming, I tried cutting some angle iron, and it was absolutely terrible. I went through just a couple of bits before I realised what I'd done. It was just melting to bits and nothing was cutting at all. And when I sort of felt it, I thought, there's not much air coming out here. I had this open like that. So the internal compressor, as well as trying to push air to the nozzle, it was pushing most of it, because it's the easiest route, through here. So I wasn't getting hardly any airflow through the nozzle, and that's what it was. Soon as I turned it off there, then yeah, loads of air. You could hear it coming out, you could feel it against your hand, and it blasted through the metal, no problem. So always make sure that is in the off position if you're using the internal compressor. So I ran me commando socket as far as I could towards the back of the house where I'll be doing the work, where I'll be doing any plasma cutting, and the furthest I could get it. But I still need a lead to reach near the garage where I'll be using the machine. So I got sorted myself out this. Again, went to my local electric supply, bought this cable. It's totally overkill really for this. Like I say, it's 32 amp. The diameter of that is 15 mil. Each core inside is 6 mil. It's incredibly flexible. It's not armoured like the one I ran to the socket. That you can hardly bend. It doesn't need to be armoured. It needs to be easily coiled up to hang up in the garage. And that's what I'm using. So I'm using sort of like that. It's the 32 amp. Goes into the socket on the wall, which is straight to the meter. And that's the 16 amp that goes to the Lidl's plasma cutter. And you can see the difference in diameter of cable on the two there. So you can see a whole lot difference. So that goes in there like that. And then that other end goes in. This cable alone weighs 15 pounds. So it's a hefty thing. And it cost me a crazy price, 10 metres. And again, I supported my little electrical shop. Again, I could have got it cheaper on Amazon, but not much, including postage and that. I thought, sorry, it was good with me on the armoured cable, giving me a good price. So I went back and I got this flexible one, which is a lot dearer than the armoured one, which is surprising. I would have thought the armoured one would be dearer with an extra steel core inside to armour it, but no, this flexible one was dearer. So nearly £6 a metre. This cost me 57 quid for that cable. So yeah, but like I said, I've gone over the top. If you want to run yourself a 16 amp capable thing, as long as it's not miles and miles long, as long as you uncoil it as well in use. This is uncoiled all the way from the back of the garage right down the drive to the box, so it's getting no problem whatsoever. That's all it's connected, and nothing cut out or anything while I was using it. So that would be my suggestion. Run yourself a dedicated socket to your garage, your shed, or wherever you're going to be using it. Don't just plug it into a ring main that is running your freezer and your PC and all the stuff like that, because you might get it to trip out. Okay, so I think I've gone through everything. The spare tips, all the extra leads, front and back of the machine, wiring it up. I think we've been through almost everything. So let's see it in action. And a disclaimer here, anybody who knows anything about plasma cutting will be rolling on the floor laughing at this. But like I said, although I am an ex-gas engineer for 40 years, not bragging, but great at soldering, lead to copper, all solder type stuff and basic electric stuff and that, but not brilliant, as you'll see when it comes to plasma cutting. My first time ever, so I've left the mistakes in. I've left me when I've fitted this wrong, just to show you what can happen, and I've left the horrible cuts I made in. But it'll give you some idea from a total newbie's point of view what is involved in plasma cutting. So don't laugh. Let's have a look at this now. Oh, I forgot to mention this. I'm just adding this later because I only just remembered. Please excuse the camera angle as well in these clips of it in action. I set the camera up on the tripod behind and to my right, thinking it'd get all the movement, but I'd obviously cocked it up, and most of the time my arm is in the way, and I've zoomed in a bit too much as well, I think. So particularly when I'm cutting the stainless steel, you don't even sort of see me. So I'm sorry about that. I only realised after I'd packed everything away, and I wasn't going to refilm the whole thing. But you'll still get an idea of how it cuts, because it's all in real time. I haven't speeded anything up. So you can see how quick it cuts, and then I do show you the results after. So let's get on with that now. So this is the stuff I made the trailer, the two trailers, 30 odd and 20 odd years ago out of, that I wished I'd have had something like this for. Okay, I'll put the thickness on the screen. It's angle, it's bed iron, what they used to sort of like bunk beds and stuff like that. So whether it's higher carbon content than normal steel or not, I don't know, but I know it is hard stuff to saw. So we'll start off first with this, just using this as a guide. We'll go out on 40 amps. Goose that up a bit. I'm not going to use that guide, it's a bit too thick, so I'm just going to use this freehand. So that. Turn it over. And carry it on down to there. Okay. Again, roughest bit of plasma cutting you've ever seen, but it just shows the thickness it will cut through. I'm not too embarrassed to show it on video. So yeah, you can see how rough that cut is, where I didn't line them up. But obviously just a bit more preparation taken in lining up a guide and doing it. It was basically this, just a demonstration to show the metal thickness it can cut through. But like you see, it's a terrible quality cut because of me, not the machine. But just total lack of skill. This is the very first plasma cutting I've ever done, remember, so... Okay, so you'll see now this, it's pretty thick. I'll put the measurement on screen what this is. Unfortunately, I don't have any thick scrap sheet. The thickest stuff I've got is that angle iron. But like I say, I'll put it on the screen what thickness this is, but it is a round sort of bore, so my lack of skills and that won't be a very tidy job cutting it, but it'll show it will get through it. Take the lock off the trigger. So yeah, as you saw there, not too tidy, but it got through it a heck of a lot quicker than you could with a hacksaw or a grinding disc. Okay, I'll just cut through this freehand. This is titanium this time, titanium from the Robot Wars days. Again, if you've ever tried sawing it, it takes the teeth off hacksaws very, very quickly. It is really hard stuff. So we've got it set on, still got it set on 40 amps. I'll turn it down. So it's now on 20 amps. I'll just go through this freehand. And I might do a few zigzags and curves just to show you the another advantage of plasma cutting. Lock off. Oops. Yeah, mistake number one. It helps if you put the earth clamp on. See, showing you my mistakes and everything here. Total warning, newbie at work. Right, here we go. And as you can see there, I'll show you these close up to the camera later in the conclusion. But that had been pretty hard to do with in titanium with a jigsaw or whatever. So just a thin steel radiator bracket this time. Remember to clamp it. Again, I'm still on just 20 amps because it's pretty thin, this. And again, see how quick it went through that. Okay, this time it's stainless steel. Again, if ever you've tried to cut stainless steel with a hacksaw or a cutting disc, it's hard work, even thin stuff like this. And you'll see how quick this gets through. It's still got it set on 20 amps, by the way. So again, that's my lack of skill, not cutting through, not keeping the right speed all the time. Might have to go through just a couple of little extra pieces, just that you haven't gone through. But again, I'll see, I'll hold that up close to the camera, but easy to get curves and stuff like that on. Okay, so aluminium this time. I'm not sure what thickness again, I put it on the screen. Like I say, I think it's at 2 or 3 mil. But we're going to try it first with just the bare cutting head, bare tip on it against it as usual. And then we're going to try it with that attachment wheel. So here we go. Right, well that didn't go through that much. I'm turning it on, putting it on full whack now, 40 amps. Let's see how this gets through it. Of course I could have gone slower, but I'll go back the same speed, but this time on 40 amps and a bit further along. Just this top bit I didn't go through. So again, quite a lot of clag. Again, I'll show it close up to the camera later. That'll knock off. We'll try it with the little wheel on it this time. So, going to touch these wheels on there, and obviously because they're metal, they're going to be making contact. But it holds the cutting nozzle just a short bit off the work, so let's see what a difference that makes. Ooh. Flames everywhere. So yes, indeed, flames everywhere, as you saw then. What it was purely my mistake. Again, newbie error, not reading the instruction properly. What I've done, this is the cutting tool thing. It says in the instructions, push that on and make sure these two screws are over this black plastic bit here. Now what I'd done, I think, is got it between this bit here. And I think I'd sort of like pushed it out a bit, and maybe that wasn't screwed in fully or whatever, and I'd sort of caught the O-ring or something like that, and something wasn't sealed or something wasn't right there, and as you saw, flames were coming out on that aluminium bit. Now I've not tried it since, but I did manage to have a look, and it wasn't pushed fully back. These two arms here, these two screws here, you can shove the wheel up and down, so you've sort of got to get it so it's not, the tip, the copper tip is not touching the worktop. It's just a tiny bit, the piece you're cutting, just a tiny piece off. It's a crazy thing, if you ask me. It's just a waste of time. So I don't think I'll be using this whatsoever. So it does come with it. By all means, have an experiment yourself. Put in the comments what you find. If you have got one of these, or you do get one and you use this part, put in the comments what you found it's useful for, because I'm not sure what it is. Again, if you're trying to cut a line, if you've done like a line with a pencil on a piece, it's a lot easier to follow it with the cutting head than to have the cutting head above it, suspended in midair with this and get it obscured by the wheels. So, yeah, not much idea really what that is for, but that explains what them flames were you just saw then. My mistake, not a fault of the machine. They must have caught the plastic a bit or something, because it's sort of melted a tiny bit, but it's not affected the running of the machine at all. I did the cuts after that, no problem. So yeah, I'll just show you. I showed them before, but I'll show you the actual metals I did. That's the alloy. I'm surprised how much sort of like clag there was on that. That'd soon knock off. But it produced a lot more than that. And the first time I tried it on just the 20 amps, didn't go through it. Again, probably me going too fast, I don't know. But I would have thought the alloy would have cut easier than the rest, but it didn't. The titanium, again, it's so stiff, I can't even bend that, and it weighs next to nothing. It's what we used on the top panel of our robot chip. But you can see it cut that really nice, and the edge on that is pretty good. The radiator bracket, which is just normal sort of bog standard steel, it whipped through that like a knife through butter. And again, the edge, it was fine on that. This was the one that I showed you, which was an absolute mess. But let's see if we can get it focus. So yeah, you can see it's a mess, but it did cut through it okay. And here, you know, it's not too bad at all. And that's 4mm. And that's probably the maximum I would ever be using it on. If you're using it, it'd be ideal for body panels. Very thin. I don't know how thick a normal body panel on a car is, 1 or 2mm at the most. Zip through that easy, and you could get more confined spaces than you could with an angle grinder or a jigsaw. And the largest stuff I had lying around the house, like I say, was the 12mm. And again, you can see on the end of it, it's a bit of a blob at the end where it went through, but you can see it cut through, and you saw on the video how quick it cut through that. So with a bit more practice, it would have taken a lot longer with an angle grinder or a saw. I enjoy, even my mistakes, I enjoyed doing it. And as you saw, it gets slightly better as things went on. But the things I learned are, so don't use that too much, only when you get more proficient. Hold it tight against the object. Keep a nice sort of uniform speed. It's all practice, like welding was, or anything like that. It's practice. If you're doing this every day, you'd do a dream. If you're only going to be using it every now and then, it ain't going to be so good. But again, knowing what amperage to use with which metal, it's all going to be a matter of experimentation, reading up, watching proper YouTube tutorials on how to plasma cut. And I'm sure I'd get better at it like anything else I've done. But yeah, I was surprised how quick it went through the tips. So yeah, I would definitely recommend getting yourself quite a lot of extra tips, particularly when you're learning it. Also, I found I have got this, an auto darkening, nice skull side, welding helmet I use for the odd time I've welded as well. I've got a MIG welder. It's not a Lidl one, it's a Clark one from Machine Mart. And that's fine for that, but I found it wasn't great on this because the plasma arc, again, if you're holding it really close and looking, yeah, it's as bright as a welding arc. But once you sort of started going and cutting it, you don't see that because it's in the metal, or it's below the metal, and it's just the sparks flying out from under the metal. So there's nothing really bright there, and I found it weren't that good. It was coming on when the arc was on and then off, and so what I ended up using was just a couple of doubled up glasses over my eyeglasses, and that's pretty dark now, and that was fine. So if I was using it regular, I'd probably get myself some just normal welding goggles, you know, the Biggles type thing, but the round lenses are fixed. It's up to you. Obviously use some form of eye protection, But it's nothing like, you don't get all the splats and stuff like that you do with welding. And I used welding gloves, but again, you could use a lighter glove to give you a bit more feel. So yeah, I enjoyed doing it. I wish I had sort of like a project to actually use it on now, so I could do some more practice. But I may just sort of like start cutting up some little bits of scrap metal around the house just to get a bit more proficient at it. So yeah, I like it. I think for 150 quid, including the built-in compressor, and giving you the option to use an external compressor with its advantages of having a moisture trap and stuff, is great. It's a 4.5 bar compressor. It seems to be plenty of air coming out of it for its needs. Treat it as, say, cutting 8 to 10 mil as the absolute max. And I don't think you can sort of like beat it for value. 3-year warranty, as with all Lidl stuff. And again, check out up here. Or is it up here? The other one on why I buy Lidl's tools, that they do stand by their warranty. I took a drill back after nearly 3 years and no problem whatsoever. They sent me a new one. So yeah, I will continue to buy Lidl's tools. This will be one of the least used ones. Like I say, it'll be tucked at the back of the garage with the welder, only coming out for the odd thing. But yeah, it seemed to work very, very well for the small time I used it. So I hope this has been of some use for you. Keep an eye out for them in Lidl's. Like I said, I've only seen this one once. Whether it's a sort of newish item or not, I don't know. Whether it'll come along again. Obviously, even they did another plasma cutter where you had to use your own compressor. But and I've seen that a couple of times. Didn't bother buying it because I haven't got a compressor. But as soon as I saw this one, I sprung on it, and they had only 2 left when I went in on the Thursday. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. And I hope it's been of some use to you if you're thinking of getting one. Because 150 quid, I think, is an absolute bargain. So I shall see you for the next review very, very soon. If you want to subscribe, please click the little picture of the shed on the left. I'm nearly up to 2,000 subscribers, slowly getting there. As I make this video, I think at 1,960 subscribers, so it'd be great if you could help me get to, if you're not a subscriber, it'd be great help if you could get me to 2,000. So hope it's been of some use. I shall see you for the next one. Thanks for watching this one. Bye for now.